This is Chip from The Real Dirt. Once again, you've reached another fabulous episode of The Real Dirt with Chip Baker. I've been a little slack lately, guys. I want to start the episode off by just, kind of apologizing and also just a little, we're all in this COVID scenario together. And it's just kind of been a little difficult to put out some podcasts. We tried to do some Zoom recordings, but man, if you guys heard those or saw those, they just sound awful. I really like the sound to sound incredible. We put a lot of work into the post-production and into the overall production of the show in the past, and wow, man, the Zoom connection just didn't quite work for me. It made it really easy to do it, but we're going to try to get some more audio episodes going here and maybe change a little format a bit. It's hard. Previously, we've had the past 3 years on the Real Dirt podcast. If you're just new to the podcast, go check out some of our older episodes on iTunes or Spotify, the Real Dirt podcast. Please subscribe. You can get some old material that's new to you. But we spent an incredible amount of time doing production and really learning how to make a great quality podcast. And when COVID hit, we went to Zoom recordings partially because we didn't want to, or we couldn't be, close enough with people to make a podcast. Now, regardless if you think this is an epidemic, a pandemic, fake or real, I'm a private pilot, and the first thing that I really, really learned in aviation is, if you take chances, odds are you're going to die. So aviation's always about being perfect and correct, and even though there is a feel to it, there's a considerable amount of math and exact and preciseness to everything with aviation. But the big thing is don't take chances. I've put that in my life and my business, and that's what we decided to do with COVID too. And we thought we could just have just phone interviews or Zoom interviews. And man, it just hasn't really worked out. So I'm sorry. I had anticipated putting out about 25 episodes by now. 50 episodes by now, and I think we got 12 or 13 in the can, so we pretty much failed on that one. But wanted to crank it up today and have a little porch session on Sunday. Sunday is often a relaxing day for us. As many of you know, we now live in Oklahoma. Previously, we lived in Northern California for about 20 years, and on and off still. I still spend a good amount of time back there. I love the place. Moved to Colorado and set up some great grow stores, Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate Garden Supply, and, moved down here to Oklahoma this past year to kind of do the same thing, expand the grow shops, expand Cultivate Garden Supply, expand distribution of my potting soil, growers cocoa, growers soil. And Oklahoma's been really, 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 really great for us. But it's a unique environment. And we've learned stuff everywhere we've gone and grown in the country and in the world about cannabis and how it performs. And Oklahoma has its unique set of challenges and advantages. We're learning every day. I was on a Oklahoma medical patients thread the other day on Facebook, and someone was commenting on maybe all the bad weed is because of all the bad growers. And there's a lot of novice and new growers here in Oklahoma. I definitely don't think it's all bad weed, but people are really just learning how to do it. And we don't really have the culture here in Oklahoma, the ganja smoking West Coast Colorado culture. It is a little different here. But people will get better at the craft and they will learn. And honestly, I think Oklahoma is really set to produce some fine quality weed in a 2 or 3 years from now, when all of the smaller growers have had a little bit of success and they've gotten better and they've started talking to their friends and they've seen better weed and they've sold more medical cannabis in the shops, and the shops tell them what they want, and local genetics start to develop, or local cultivars become in demand. When all those things happen, better quality cannabis is going to get here. But the thing about cannabis is, in anything, is when you have multiple people working on the project, you get exponentially better. And in Oklahoma, there's more cultivation licenses than in any place else in the country. And I would bet there's more. Yeah, I mean, someone could check this fact. If someone knows this fact, let's hear it. But I don't. I'm just going to make it up, okay? I bet that there are more legal cultivation licenses in Oklahoma than in the rest of the country combined. That's right. There's just a few thousand in California, just a few thousand in Colorado, and those are the states we think about the most. I don't even think there's 2,000 in Oregon. So there's a considerable amount of people growing all at once, learning all at once, and they're going to get exponentially better as long as they drop the grower ego and realize that they can. There's probably someone doing it better than them. They can probably do it better. The exponential learning that's going to happen over all those 6,000-7,000 commercial growers. And when I say commercial growers here in Oklahoma, you can have a 2-light grow and be a commercial grower. You just apply for the license, and it's a great environment to work that in. So I think it's going to get considerably better, and fast. And in a couple of years, wow, man, Oklahoma's going to have some great weed. So, but besides the sheer number of new people to this industry, there are a lot of experienced people like myself that have moved here. I've been growing cannabis all my life, and only recently gotten back into the medical cannabis. It is a difficult environment in many aspects. I mean, I'm from Georgia, where the humidity is high every single day. There's not a dry day in the year. It's subtropical down there. The humidity is not as bad here as in Georgia. I mean, we at our farm we have 50% average humidity frequently. And 50% humidity, 90 degrees temperature. And for outdoors, and that's a really great environment for ganja plants. They really like that. Yes, so does the mold. The mold and the mildew starts to grow at that 40 to 50%. It's the perfect environment for it, but it's also the perfect environment for cannabis to thrive. And from my experience, the terpene levels of the outdoor greenhouse cannabis here are far superior than what I've been seeing in Colorado, simply because it's just so dry. It's just so dry. Yes, there are days like today where the humidity is high. It's been raining the past few afternoons, and the humidity has gotten high at night, 70s. The state is very diverse, though. And, if you're on the eastern side, east of Oklahoma City, far more water, far more moisture. If you're on the western side of Oklahoma City, far drier, way more high plains, and, right in the middle, you got a lot of rolling hills, and there's lots of farmland where vegetables are grown, and there's even, some sort of grape and olive culture here in Oklahoma too, which are indicator species for cannabis. So, the humidity is not impossible here. And I'll tell you, if you think humidity is impossible to grow cannabis in, while Florida has quite a large cannabis industry currently, and they have their difficulties, but they're able to do it, and it's totally possible. Not only possible, but honestly, cannabis likes those 40-50% humidity ranges. And that's what it is in the coastal areas of Humboldt and Oregon too, or Colorado, California, and Oregon. Is in the coastal areas, you get that perfect 40% humidity, and yeah, it raises a little bit at night, but that's the kind of the beauty over there is it's real consistent in temperature. Might only drop a few degrees from the daytime to the nighttime. Really makes incredible cannabis growth. That's all those huge plants you see. Those are West Coast plants. Rarely do you see any other plants like that in other areas. Even though I have seen some large plants in Michigan, in that same area, in that same the same large plants. The big thing about outdoor cultivation here in Oklahoma is latitude. Like, we are so low down here that our light cycle is completely different from what all of our strains are. All the strains that we're mostly getting are West Coast strains, either bastardized in Colorado. Hey, don't mean to hurt your feelings. One-offed in Colorado, and Colorado has its own special element too. But they're almost all indoor. The West Coast has so much outdoor that if strains are developed there, they often will go outside or greenhouse or light depth, regardless, where like the Colorado strains, they may never see that, and or may never see it at volume. Wow, man, these strains, most of the clones, most of the seeds have a really different reaction down here than they do up at the 38th to 41st degree north. Plants grown in that latitude, it goes all the way across to like Afghanistan and India. We're all on that same ridge. And the light cycle is just kind of perfect for cannabis in that region, right? You can plant it. There's long enough light in the early spring in order to get the plant into vegetative growth. The summer has the right amount of light, also to keep it in veg until August, mid-August, and then it'll initiate flower. Now, the interesting thing, this is all like in 30 minutes, 45 minutes of darkness that's going on, because that's how cannabis flowers, is darkness. So with just, a few minutes more light, a few minutes later, or a few minutes more light, a few minutes earlier, it really does affect, the plants that we're growing, the genetic stock we have, which I think is a huge opportunity for Oklahoma. Don't get me wrong, but mostly the plants aren't growing in traditional vegging and flowering manners that we've seen, at higher latitudes. Even in Colorado, the plants act really similar. They're a little earlier, and here's what I mean. So the farther south you go, the earlier your season starts to begin, but also the earlier it ends, even if you have good weather. Um, you know, and this is due to the fact that cannabis is mostly flowered by night cycle specifically. And I found that most cannabis will flower at under 14 and a half hours of light. Uh, you get under that, and most of the modern cannabis will flower. Now, I know there's some people out there that claim all this other stuff about photo period cannabis, but I've just been growing this stuff my whole life. Um, there's absolutely a critical nightlife for every single strain, and then there's also a series of stressful or events that can also cause the plant to go into flower when it's around that critical nightlife. For instance, if you're in a 1 gallon pot and you've got a 4 foot tall plant and it's, in early July here, it will probably flower. Um, I would even say in late June, it will probably flower due to stress factors of being in that root bound small pot, and the light cycle's changing. It's right there on the cusp, right? Mostly what we're seeing here in Oklahoma is that you can plant outside 2 to 4 weeks earlier than we would have in Northern California. And that also the plants are coming out 2 to 4 weeks earlier in the fall time. Um, there's tremendous advantages to all of this. Oklahoma, there's no canopy size, no plant size. You just get your limit and go under your regulations of security and fencing, and you can grow as many plants as you want. So, the idea is I'm going to grow these huge 5, 10 pound plants. One, it's really unrealistic here in Oklahoma. And honestly, in other places, it's just such a pain in the ass to grow those big plants. Um, that small plants are definitely the way to go here. I would bet the quarter and a half pound plants, the 1 pound plants are probably perfect for this environment. It's so nice here early in the spring that so many people want to put clones and plants out. I mean, we had our first harvested tomatoes in first of April. Before April 20th, we were eating tomatoes and cabbage and chard and onions, and I mean, we started growing in February here, our vegetable garden. But that light cycle's just off. But it does offer you an opportunity in the early spring to just put plants out and flower them immediately without them growing. You get a sea of green outside. You don't have to tarp it, with the natural light cycle. And in many strains, you can force flower by just vegging them under 24 hours of light and then putting them outside in that early spring. I would suggest March is probably the best month for this. And some strains just won't work, but we've seen you know several strains just start flowering and not stop here. And of course, those are probably bad also for full season plant production here in Oklahoma. Uh, the other real limiting factors here that's been brought up is the pest pressure, and I mean the pest pressure is pretty strong here, but it's not undoable for outdoor cultivation and for indoor cultivation. But for outdoor cultivation, you've got a, a series of pests that want to devour your plants every day. Um, I mean, there's rabbits and rats and deer and mice and grasshoppers and looper worms, cabbage worms, tomato hookworms, tomato worms, garden worms. I mean, these guys are so destructive. It's unreal. There's definitely powdery mildew, um, and botrytis as well. Like it is more humid down here. You get those big buds and those big dense buds, and the botrytis likes to grow inside them. So there's numerous problems. But man, all of those things I just mentioned are really, you can control them. Uh, Numerous biological products you can get at cultivatecolorado.com. You can get Cultivate OKC or go to your local supply store. Dipel is, a BT product. Almost any BT product I think works. Dipel is considered like the commercial one. It's what people use for, corn and whatnot. Um, we mix it at a really strong rate, far stronger than they call for it. I don't think you can overdo it with the Dipel because you are just, colonizing a the Bacillus thuringiensis, I think is the BT. So the more you spray, the more volume that you put in per gallon, just in my opinion, increases your ability for the BT to grow on the plant. You've really got to get this stuff on early too. You really want to get it growing on the stem. Early on the plant's growth. You want to make sure that it's on that first little bitty flower that comes out in pre-flower. I would suggest making sure you got a really good collination started a week or two before flower is great, great, great strategy. Yeah, you can hear the wildness here, huh? Man, lots of bugs. You hear them. Grasshoppers. They haven't been terrible much of a problem for us, but grasshoppers will also eat all the leaves off your plants. They are locusts. Um, we try to do a lot of mechanical control for IPM. We make sure all the grass is cut. We till as much of the ground, we disc as much of the ground around our outdoor gardens as we can. Um, and we do these organic preventative sprays, and it really does help. And they're also like the things that you can use that aren't harmful, that don't show up in the end use cannabis product. You have to do them preventatively, though. You can't just start seeing the problem and spraying it; it'll never work. Um, that goes for powdery mildew. We suggest people spray regalia for that, and just start your plants off young, and you won't have a problem. If you see it, then you're going to be battling it, and that's just how it goes. Every state's different on what pesticide products they can use or pest control measures they can use. Oklahoma's, mm, it's actually it's pretty strict when you actually look at the letter of the law or talk to the Department of Agriculture. But just the way they test for it isn't strict enough. So it allows for lots of variation and a lot of variables. People have all kinds of strategies on how to use certain pest control measures that won't test in their end test. And I don't suggest or advocate any of that. Just, try to follow the law and have a proper integrated pest management program, which always includes these elements. Identification. One, you got to identify what you got. Okay. And it's not that hard. You don't have to get to the encyclopedia. You just Google it. You got a thought about it. More than likely, if it's a soft-bodied insect, you can, treat it all the same way. If it's a hard-bodied insect, you treat it kind of all the same way. Uh, we like the biological controls. I won't even get into the pronunciation of everything. But Botanicard and Dipel are some of our favorites. You can get all these at cultivatecolorado.com online. Just look us up, give us a call, Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC. Just walk into the store and say, hey, Chip said, I need to come and get some Dipel because I'm going to have worms growing out of my buds here in the next month. Can you help me out? And Chris will say, oh, yeah, bro. I got packets of Dipel right over here. We'll be glad to help you out, show you how to spray it appropriately. But right now is absolutely the time to get on that Dipel and get on your biological controls for your flower production. I can't say it enough, man. Do preventative measures. And the best preventative measure is identification. Walk through your gardens. Look. If you think you got a problem, look at it. Don't overanalyze it, but think about it and then say, hey, man, I do have a problem here and I need to control it, and then identify the proper controls. We always suggest mechanical, and that is absolutely the number one thing to do. If you have one plant that's riddled with infestation of something, just kill the plant and get it out, man. As soon as you see a leaf or a plant that has bugs, man, start thinking about it. Now, I'm not saying go chop your garden down. even though I have more than once, and I just recently did it too, you can easily control, outbreaks of many different types of pests with just removing the worst plants in your garden, trimming back all the leaves of the infected areas of the other plants. One, it reduces the overall surface area so that when you do some sort of biological control, then you have less surface area to spray. And yeah, and then lastly, it's the biological controls. Now, whether what method you use to kill the bugs, it's all you're all just trying to disturb their biology or disrupt their life cycle. I suggest trying to stick to all organic methods or methods involving bacterias or other molds to combat the problems. Uh, you know, Other things that many people use are H2O2, where botrytis or powdery mildew are concerned. Um, with a direct spray, a spot spray directly on the affected area, it works excellent. I don't suggest dipping your plants in it after you harvest it. It just harms the color, the look, the taste, all of it. I mean, H2O2 is caustic, and you can see it when you put it on your skin. It turns it white. It does the same thing to your nuggets, except it just turns them brown. So if you're concerned about botrytis, man, it's actually better to spray the plants down a few days before you harvest it. Let it dry completely, and the plant absorb it. Far better off doing that. So identification, mechanical and biological controls, that's how you deal with almost any pests. If you have any questions, you can always call us up at Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC. Chat with us online, ask online, join our Facebook group, and we'd be glad to help you. Oh man, Oklahoma is windy. Oh yeah, it's windy here. It's windy here in Oklahoma. Now some places aren't as windy as others, but those places have the humidity. So if you want the lower humidity, then you're going to have to suffer through a little bit of wind. And I picked kind of a ridge location for our farm, specifically because we came through here when it was flooding last year, and all the places that weren't flooding, well, those are probably going to be pretty good places. And the farm we got, it's real good farm, but it is a little windy. Not as windy as others. Not as windy as being on the south or on the plains out there west of Oklahoma. But the wind is definitely an issue. You definitely have to stake up your plants, stake up your pots. Make sure you really double tie down your greenhouses. You really have to go through effort. You're more of a mariner here, I think, with all the wind and the rope and the knots and the bracing than you are a farmer almost. The things we've done to combat the wind: greenhouses, shade houses, big plants in front of small plants, perimeter fencing, using tree lines to break the wind. We've taken a number of strategies to make this work, and it has to some degree. But man, when it's 114 degrees and that wind picks up, wow, you better be on your irrigation, man, because it will melt some plants. Straight up melt them. So I mean, it's definitely a difficulty to overcome, but it's part of the game, and every place you go has its own set of rules or its own circumstances. And here in Oklahoma, there is the wind and the heat is definitely two of the major ones. That's for sure. But hey, man, people have been breaking wind. Ha 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 ha. People have been disturbing wind flow, using wind blocks of some sort for millennia. Um, Well, the other problem we've had here in Oklahoma is getting good employees, man. Getting good people that can work. We came here last year, and man, there was only a handful of cannabis people here to begin with. Most of the people here are new to cannabis. Some of them they just don't know if they want to be in it or can do it, and we've had a little bit of a problem finding employees. So, hey, if you're in Oklahoma, if you are fit and willing to work outside in a greenhouse, outdoor environment, man, hey, drop us a line, man. Um, you can email me at chip@chipbaker.com. And we've been taking resumes and applications for a moment. But we're really looking for some good people that want to learn about the operation, work up, and stay with us for a number of years. That's generally how we do all of our operations. Cultivate Colorado, I got people that work with me for 10 years. Cultivate OKC. I mean, Chris has worked with me for more than 10 years. Over at Royal Gold, Chris helped me develop all the product lines there, helped me source all the raw materials there. He handled all the testing, and now he's the manager at Cultivate OKC. Yeah, if you're interested in employment, if you're interested in being part of a great team, just drop me an email, chip@chipbaker.com. I am specifically looking for hard workers, people with backgrounds in mechanics and electrical and construction and irrigation and farming, vegetable farming. Yeah, give me a call if you're interested, man. We're good people, and we want to bring some great people on. Well, that's about it for today's Real Dirt Sunday edition. It's sun's starting to come out now. We had a nice fog layer this morning, so it's getting hot here on the porch. You've heard all the birds and the roosters and the insects in the background. A little piece of Oklahoma. If you like this episode and others, please download and subscribe. Go to iTunes right now. Look up the Real Dirt Podcast and subscribe. Hey, I want you to check out all of my websites. If you're interested in cocoa fiber, man, growerscocoa.com, growersoil.com. We make this stuff in Colorado. It's the highest quality cocoa fiber potting soil on the planet. I put my heart and soul and wallet behind that statement. It's all made inside. Treat it like a bakery. Everything's broken out and manufactured in one day and packaged up at the end of the chance for cross contamination and bugs is almost minimal. I mean, it is fresher than a Hostess pie when you get it. That's for sure. Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC, cultivategardensupply.com, cultivatecolorado.com. You can order anything you wish for your hydroponic, indoor, outdoor garden. Local deliveries throughout Colorado and Oklahoma. Commercial deliveries throughout the known world. For instance, man, we just had a deal going on in like Malawi or someplace like that. And, everybody was a little nervous about it. But, yeah, we got a good shipment of stuff shipped over there and helping some hemp farmers get started, man. Hey, I also wanted you to check out my new project, the Greener Consulting Group. I have developed a consulting group, the Greener Group. It is a accumulation, or it is a team of the top experts in the industry, and we can solve anyone's problem. If you're going into the cannabis industry, man, you should really think about talking to us about a 2-day deep dive. If you're in the cannabis industry and you're having some problems, it doesn't matter if it's banking or IPM or hiring, or I've got an expert that can help you out, and it's really, really, really reasonable. You'll learn more in a day spent with us than you will 5-10 years failing at it on your own. So. Great place to stop. Growers Group, growersconsultinggroup.com. Of course, I've got to mention bakersmedical.com. That's our Oklahoma dispensary and cannabis operations, where we operate a clone nursery, a commercial clone nursery, and a dispensary. The dispensary's been closed for a minute, but opens soon. Hey, I want to thank everyone for listening. Appreciate all your help and support. We'll get a couple more of these porch episodes going and maybe get some more real dirt on some more stuff. Real dirt.